Okay, so we've got 45 minutes to have a chat about motivated customer experience. So what's it all about? For those who don't know me or know little about me, Richard Knight, or I like to call myself the customer experience bloke. Actually, I don't like to. Somebody once said, you're that customer experience bloke, aren't you? And I thought, well, you can't get much better of a description, really. So yes, that's me. And one of the reasons I like that is because customer experience isn't anything mystical, isn't anything strange and Jedi-like. It's basic stuff. And therefore, as a normal bloke, I get it. And so do most of us, because we're all customers. So it's not don't need to be an expert or a specialist in this sort of thing to actually be able to do something about it, particularly from a business point of view. So when we're thinking about that, one of the key things to think about going forward is motivation. The last year has thrown up a lot of different things for all of us and been quite a difficult time. So how do we make sure that we can ensure that our teams and ultimately our customers remain motivated around our organizations, want to stay with us, spend money with us, spend more money with us, and tell others how great we are? And so that's the key focus whenever it comes to it. So Insight 6 is a customer experience organization whereby we look at gathering insight for businesses so they can really understand what's going on from the customer's point of view, but also from the internal customer's point of view, employees. So we do that through a number of different mechanisms, and I'll talk briefly about that at the end of the session. What I'm going to do is run through a number of slides, give you some ideas about what the key parts are around motivation, and then allow maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end just to ask any questions or have a general conversation about what we've been talking about. So I will crack on. So what I'd like to start is by telling you a nice little story. Here's time for a story, everybody. So sit yourselves comfortable. Here we go. Get a cup of tea, and I'm going to tell you a nice little story about moving houses. Once upon a time, many moons ago, there was a young, very attractive gentleman called Richard who bought his first house with his then girlfriend Lucy, who runs Insight 6 Dorset and Wilts with me now as my wife. We bought our first house, oh God, I can't even remember when it was now, many moons ago. And in fact, it was so long ago, I don't have much recollection about the experience that we had whilst we bought that. However, as the years have gone by, and some people might find this quite interesting, is we probably moved house, I'd say probably 7 times, and moved houses and bought houses about 7 times. All the way through those experiences, we've had what you would call a all right experience. Meh, it was okay. On every single time we sold and bought houses, we had an yeah, it's all right experience. It's okay. It's not too bad. And what that led to was the fact that we have never used the same conveyancing firm twice. We have used 7 different conveyancing firms to do that, which is really interesting when you think, well, if it was okay, why didn't you bother going somewhere else? And this is where the focus is at the moment. It is not good enough to be okay. Good enough isn't, as one famous man once said, whose name I can't remember his name. So we've got to make sure that we focus on being excellent. And being excellent, we can do that through 2 things: process and people. Now, processes are really interesting things, and I spoke a little bit about it in my last session when we talk about measurement and measuring your processes. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in the next session in April as well, actually, around online review processes. But today we're talking about people, because the impact that those interactions, those experiences we had with 7 different legal firms, were the key thing that came out of that were people. So the last time we moved house, we bought a house, was 2 years ago, and we actually went through an organization that we hadn't used before. And one of the key things that we got out at the end of it was, I've moved house so many times, I know I've got to chase people. That just seems to be it. And guess what? Had to chase people again, the experience. At the end of the experience, a nice little form came through saying, please give us some feedback. Again, at the end of it, I wasn't asked during the process. In fact, it was all very quiet. So I didn't know what was going on there. And then I've lost my train of thought now. God, that's good. I'm getting too old. And then we were thinking about, okay, so what's going to make the difference? What would make the difference? And we are in the post arrived a letter saying, thank you very much for working with us. Would you like to write a will? Because you ticked, we would like to write a will on one of those boxes that we filled in. Brilliant. I thought that's fantastic. So I filled the form in, sent it off, never to hear from them again. So I'm thinking, yeah, there we go. They're the same. They're the same as all the other 6 firms that I've worked with. So when I move next time, and it probably will, I'm going to go with somebody else again. And I know that. Okay. What is that organization losing? And why are they losing that? So from a people point of view, what's going through their minds? Why didn't they follow up that inquiry about the will? Why didn't they show interest in me during those downtimes? Why weren't they phoning me to say, don't worry, everything's okay, even though we was really quiet for the last 3 weeks, we're still on track? Why didn't they do that? So one of the key things that we can think about from that point of view is the attitude. It is motivation. What is going on in organizations that prevents them from taking it to that next step? Why aren't they taking the opportunity? We know that if you do a fag packet calculation in terms of if I buy a house and I stay with a legal firm, I could be worth £50,000 to that firm over my lifetime. That's a minimum. So I do conveyancing, going to be a few £1,000s. I then write a will. That might be what they class as a lost leader. But actually after that, guess what? I've got kids. Where are they putting their money? What are they doing? Where are they, who's going to be their next legal representative? So there's loads that's going on there. So the motivation is one of the key things. Why weren't they sharing this great opportunity amongst the departments? And this is the thing with a lot of organizations, particularly from a B2B or a professional services, or those organizations that are not necessarily seen as being customer facing. They're just saying, well, we're the experts, so you must come to us. So let's think about that today. It's about what is it? What's driving us in terms of the role we do, the careers we choose, and how that impacts what our customers ultimately get at the end of the day. So let's think about, there's the solicitor, there's the receptionist, there's the other solicitor who was in the wills department who didn't get in contact with me. There's the practice manager. There's the conveyancing team leader. There's the estate agents involved in it. So what's going on there? None of them contacted me again to say, thank you very much. Don't forget, if you sell a house next time, or would you like us to you could refer us to somebody else. Nobody did that. What's going on? Why aren't they motivated to do that? So what we're going to do today is going to look at motivation. What is it? Why is it so important? Then going to look at specifically 9 motivators of work and how they can impact that overall experience that your customers ultimately have. And then we're going to look at, well, okay, so how can we track motivation? How can we see what's going on? Because, hey, that'd be good, wouldn't it? If we could work out where our teams are and where our customers are, there's a gap between the two. There is a sort of an engagement gap, if you like, that exists. So how can we fill that? What could we possibly do? So energy, that's what motivation is. I've spoken about it before. We know that during this most interesting of years, we have been on what we might call the COVID coaster. And I have seen it, and I'm sure we've all been through it ourselves, whereby 1 minute we are firing on all cylinders. The energy is flowing. From this picture point of view, we are plugged into the mains. The national grid is powering our ability to be awesome, to make a difference for our customers. And that's fantastic. But then the next day, the slippery slope on the COVID coaster occurs. It's like that horrible corkscrew thing where you're going down and down, getting down to the bottom, and you can feel the energy draining out of you. And you get up in the morning and you go, right, I've got to go to work. I've got to pick up the telephone. I've got to send that email. I've got to redesign that website. I've got to think about hard work. We were running on the battery power. We're running on battery power, and our battery power runs down quite quickly. Mobile phones, love them. I just got a new one. As soon as I take the thing off charge, it's then half the battery life is gone. And it's slower and it takes longer to actually perform. So how can we think about that, you know, in terms of motivation for our teams, and therefore what that then impacts in our customers' point of view. So if we think of the moments, I'm sure we can all think of times where we've been customers and we've had that person in front of us, whether it's on the telephone or in the shop, where they're, I really don't want to be here. I'm really not motivated today. And that's from a customer facing point of view. What about the people behind the scenes? That person who's developing the new website, who's developing the interaction with an internal team, if they're not firing on all cylinders, if they're not plugged into the mains, what does that mean for ultimately me as a customer? I might get some spelling mistakes in an email. I might get a picture on a website that's been designed that isn't working properly. All of those things are starting to impact my experience. So if we have that lower motivation, or we're staying in the trough longer, so motivation goes up and down, we know it. Yeah, absolutely. What can we do? What happens when we're at that trough, when we're in the bottom part of the COVID coaster, when we're feeling, oh, really bad and everything's really a struggle? Well, what we can see is that the symptoms of that poor motivation come through in business, and ultimately what impacts the customer is things like we get an increase in that staff turnover, absence rates are going up, recruitment costs, they're going to start to go up. This is having an impact on our business. We're then going to have to start firefighting. That great person who knows all the systems, they've left because they weren't in the right place. Oh, that means I've got to now do it, or I've got to get somebody in to do it. I've got to outsource. I've got to train somebody to do it. All these things are going up. Meanwhile, productivity is going down. We're not hitting our marks because we're not performing. Customers, what's happening to our customers? They're okay. Are they? Don't know. What's going on with them? They may be disappearing, like me. Thank you very much for that, but I'm not coming back to you. I'm gone. Reputation starts to go down then, because guess what? How many times have I told everybody that story about my conveyancing experience? Loads. 20, 30, 40 people at least. So I'm going to carry on doing that. How much of an impact had that on if I was talking about the actual businesses? And of course, then profits. So from a business point of view, how does that impact everything in the long term? So the symptoms of poor motivation can come through in business. So we see it happening as business owners, leaders, whoever, whatever we do, we can see the impact, but can't necessarily connect it to actual motivation. Why is that? Because motivation is invisible. Yeah, we don't walk around with a bag of it. Go, hang on, I'm running low. Need to top it up. Yeah. So we all have these motivators that hit us in different ways, and we'll talk about that shortly in terms of how we could then perhaps increase that. So we're talking about motivation impacting performance, and that's ultimately what it's about, because we're, from a business and commercial point of view, we need teams, individuals, and ultimately teams to be performing at a higher level, because when they do, we know that we're getting great customer experience. There's a basic equation, which I'll talk about shortly after I've shown you this triangle. This is the performance triangle. So at the head of it, we've got direction. So in any business, any organization, we're going to need some form of direction. Where are we going? What's the remit of this organization? Why do we do what we do? Where do we want to get to? Now, a lot of organizations are pretty good at this now. Mission statements, talk about the culture, the values, and all these things that ultimately drive very good sort of strategies. And then it comes down into milestones and tactics and all that fantastic business stuff. So we can produce these lovely things that help this, which is great. And then what we need to do is, in terms of performance, is to bolt on the skills. Because if you haven't got the skills, we can have a great direction, but we're never going to get there because we haven't got the skill to get there. So within teams, we're generally looking at what's going on. If we're not firing as well as we need to, things aren't happening quite as well. We're getting turnover, we're losing customers. It's costing us more money. What do we generally do? Businesses generally, let's train you again. You need training then. So we're going to train you. Of course, there you go. You go off to your 1 hour training. You come back and go, well, that was lovely, and never do anything with it. So the third part, as you would suggest, is motivation. So in order for that performance triangle to really work, you need motivation. From the analogy point of view, aeroplane, when you go on holiday, you know where you want to go on holiday. Generally, you say, well, I'm going to go here when we're allowed to. You get to the airport, you get on an aeroplane, you're hoping the pilot has the skill to fly that plane to where you want to get to. Brilliant. Everything's fine. But if that aeroplane has no fuel in it, you're not going anywhere. Yeah, you're just going to sit on the runway and just look like, well, wow, we've got some great goals here and we're all trained, but actually I can't be bothered. Haven't got the motivation. There isn't the energy there to get this thing going. So performance, critical part in terms of our teams. So the 9 motivators of work, how does that impact then? So we've got that performance, but specifically, what can we do to identify what's going on? Because remember I said motivation's invisible. So how can we make the invisible visible? Well, we know now through something called motivational maps that there is 9 motivators of work. And as you can see here, they are split into 3 areas, 3 colors. We have got our relationships in green. And relationships, as it suggests, is all about when you're at work, you're gaining energy through working with people and actually having some more stability, safety, and actually having recognition and a bit of status as well. And those are the three motivators themselves there. So friend, defender, star. And I'll talk a little bit about the specifics of those shortly. So that's our relationship motivators, but we also have our achievement motivators. So that's about getting stuff done. So I really gain energy from seeing that I've got a list, I've ticked them off, I've got them done. Task orientation, let's get this stuff done. The builder likes the money. Show me the money. And that's what a lot of people think. There's a great video by a chap called Dan Pink. If you ever get a chance, on Google, Dan Pink, and he talks about motivation. He puts them into just 3 motivators, but he talks about how money, he did a great study in America, at Harvard, I think it was, or one of the big schools over there. Basically said to students, we'll give you money if you do this task. And it worked for the first couple of times. And then strangely enough, the motivation dropped and their efficiency at doing that job just for money didn't work. And we know this is the case. But builder, money is part of what we do. It's just one of the 9. So it has different ways it plays in. Director, it's about influencing. It's about being in charge. It's about telling people what to do, not in a horrible way, but in a, let's get stuff done sort of way. And we all need that. Otherwise, we'd all sit around having a nice chat and nothing can ever get done. And then our experts, as it suggests, they like knowledge, they like all those sort of things. That's about getting stuff done. And then finally, the third part of the cluster is growth. These are generally the attributes that, or the motivators that we see from a leadership team point of view. So higher level strategy, thinking forward. Spirit, we need a bit of freedom, need some time to go out and do stuff on my own. Creator, it's about innovating, change, doing stuff differently. And the searcher is about making a real difference, having really strong purpose in our work, not just to make money, but to really make a difference to people, communities, environments, whatever it is. So in terms of the motivators themselves, those are the 3 clusters that they come into. And the motivators are in connection to how this can impact our customers. Because we all have all of these 9 motivators, they can be impacted at different times and different periods during our careers and the way we work. So if we can understand where they are and what they're doing, particularly for individuals, and then we can also look at teams, we can understand, well, have we got people who are motivated? And if not, what can we do to help them? Because the one thing we can't do is we cannot go and motivate somebody. If we could, all I would do now is say to you, if you've got an organization that's not working very well, just stick on one of those YouTube motivational videos. Have you seen them? There's hundreds of them. Just stick one of them on every morning and everybody will be really motivated, wouldn't they? Eye of the tiger, here we go. I'm going to smash it today. Brilliant. Does it work? No, it doesn't. What we can do is we can create an environment for our teams to be motivated, for themselves, to motivate themselves. And we do that through understanding what the motivators are. Because when we do that, I mentioned an equation. Great customer experience comes from skill multiplied by motivation. So I take the performance bit out of it and I stick customer experience because it's true. Highly skilled, highly motivated people, guess what? You'll get a great customer experience. So it's all really interesting to think about. So if we just have a quick delve down into the specifics, or just to give you a little bit more context around this, the pictures generally help give you an idea about, okay, so where might I be? Where might the people I work with be in terms of their motivators? Why aren't they firing on those cylinders? And as you can see, I've split them into the three clusters there with the colors. So the green is the relationship cluster. So we've got defender at the top. So defending, stability, security, don't rock the boat. These people don't like change. They do like change. They don't like change coming rapidly. So they're the ones who take a little bit more time. So if you're going through organizational change in an organization, that can impact customer experience because everybody's going, well, hang on, I don't want this change. I want to slow down. Friend is the next motivator, the picture with all the hands in. And as you can see, they, yeah, they've got friendship at work. They like going to work. They're belonging. They have a community at work. If you've got this, you enjoy that. And it might be having quite an impact, the fact that we're all working remotely at the moment. If you've got this high motivation for friendship at work, guess what? Sitting on Zoom all day or not actually speaking to anybody all day can have quite a negative impact. So therefore, the interaction you have with customers can be affected. The star motivator at bottom there, that's about, as it suggests, being in the limelight a little bit. Not in a bad way, again, liking status, liking recognition. So if you're ignored within your team, within your work environment, people don't say well done, how much of an impact does that have on you and therefore your motivational level? So that's our relationship motivators. And then over in the middle there we've got the red motivators, which are the God, brain's gone completely again, achievement cluster. So we've got director at the top. We need people to direct. We need people to get stuff done. If you've got teams where they haven't got very much sort of motivation around director, what do you think is going to happen to the team? They lose their way. They haven't got somebody who likes the direction part of their job. They gain energy from it. If we haven't got that, who's going to tell people what to do? Who's going to crack the whip to get stuff happening? And if you don't, is that going to impact what happens to the customer? Yeah. If there was that, going back to my wills example, if somebody said, do you want a will? Yes, I do. And it sat in someone's inbox. Why hasn't something been done about it? Was there a director in the department saying, look, come on, guys, we need to get all these things sent out. We need to, because then we can gather them in and we can talk to them and get some more business out of them. Then we got the builder. That's about success, material goods. And again, it's not a bad thing. People like money. Don't know about you, quite like it myself, because guess why? It enables me to do other things. Enables me to go on holiday, enables me to buy skis to go on holiday, enables me to spend time with my family, enables me to do all these other great things, go to the pub when we can, and have a few beers. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So finally on there, we've got expert. So this is about the brain. It's about, if you've got a team of experts, brilliant. They love finding out new things. They love doing all these things. IT teams, generally full of experts, which is great. But are they going to get stuff done? Have they got the energy and the motivation to do that? So that can impact our customers ultimately. And then finally, our blue area, we've got all our lovely blue motivators. The top one there, creation, difference. Let's go and make something different. Let's not continue doing the same thing we've done before. Let's go and find something else. I like to think of that as a squirrel motivator. If you've ever seen the animated film Up, with the kid with the balloons and the house of the balloons, and there's the dog. Every time he sees a squirrel, he's gone. Squirrel! Disappeared. That, for me, is the creator motivator. So you've got to rein those ones in, because yes, we're going to get change and we're going to get something innovative, but has the work been done? Has the customer got what they want before that creator has disappeared off somewhere else? So really interesting to think about. And then we've got flip it out, put my teeth in, the freedom of the motivator, the spirit motivator. This isn't about not liking working with people. This is about wanting time and space to go and be able to do that, to be autonomous, to think about what you're going to do yourself. Really good example of teams when you've got lots of spirit motivation. However, what you've got is you've got a leader who is very high director. So they want to be in charge all the time, and the spirit motivation is being crushed because they're looking over the shoulder of teams all the time. How much does that impact what the customer gets? Yeah, so somebody's motivation dropping because they're not given the freedom to go off and try something new and different or get on with their work. And then finally, our searcher. Searcher is one of the key ones, actually. 80% of people have searcher in their top 3 of their motivators. This is about purpose and meaning. So we don't all just go to work to make money. A lot of us, 80%, have that in the top motivation. So it means that we really are seeking to make a difference. So you think about why you do what you do. Why is it? What does it make a difference for? What does it give you? What does it give other people? What does it give communities, etc., etc.? So there's a lot of focus on that sort of social responsibility piece there. And that's a really strong driver for a lot of people. So there's our 9 motivators. Hopefully you can see why it's really important to start considering these sort of things. Great question to ask here in terms of which ones do you think your top ones are? Which ones do you think your top 3 are? Just have a think about those, because really interesting to think, well, if mine are hit these, you know, I don't like being on Zoom too much. Why is that? Why do I need, okay, that's taking my energy away from me. What else do I need? How can I get it? And therefore, how can I give a better experience to my clients and my customers? I mentioned careers and the way it all works through. This is a great example, and this is a good one for your teams or teams that you work with. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a basic concept. Catherine's nodding away there. I'm sure, you know, you may well have seen these in the past. It's a basic concept of, at the bottom, we biological and psychological needs. So as human beings, we need air, food, water, shelter, all the basics to be able to function as a human. Okay, so that's generally that's the bottom one, that's fine. But then when we start to get into the work environment, we can start to see these other things coming through. So safety needs, protection, security, that's like the defender motivator, isn't it? So when I'm basically starting work, when I'm out on my own in the big scary world as an adult, actually, I need some security first to make sure that I can live. Okay, fair enough. And then when I get into my career, I'm going to start, belonging. Yeah, it's quite good here. I've got a team of people who I'm working with. I quite like the relationships. I'm starting to develop in my career, in my work. And then as I go through, I'm thinking about esteem, reputation, responsibility. What's my status? I want a better job title. And that's where our star motivator comes in. I love the star motivator. It's a really good one. Go on LinkedIn and look at all the different people you know who do the same job and see what type of name they've given themselves or role title. So a great example of sales representatives. I used to work in pharmaceutical industry, and we had account managers, and you would be an account manager. But many people who have the star motivator, you can see them a mile off. They don't call themselves account managers like everybody else. They are senior executive assistant to the account managing guru of, whatever, because they like the idea that I've got status just a little bit beyond somebody else. And that's where I gather my energy from. And it's not a bad thing. It's just one of these nice little things you can see. And so that then thinks, well, how would that impact customers and clients then? Is that going to have a negative impact? Is it going to have a positive impact? So again, loads to consider. And as we go up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we start to get to knowledge, meaning and self-awareness. So we're starting to get beyond the sort of basics. We're now into this whole, well, actually, I can be more. So I want to be an expert. I want to learn more, or I want to inform people about stuff as well. That's what experts like doing. And then we can see the blue motivators are at the top here in growth. So we're now starting to go to aesthetic needs. We're self-actualizing, and we're on transcendence. So these are all these bigger things, as we go through our careers, those things tend to change. Or if we think about it as teams of different people, if you think of the top part of the triangle, you can see you've got your growth motivators. Those generally around the senior leadership teams. They're the people sat there coming up with strategy, with looking forward and growth and moving things on. And then in our middle ground, we've got our middle managers, the red, predominantly the red. They're getting stuff done. Yeah. And then at the bottom, we've got our operational teams. They're the ones who, interestingly enough, are closer to the rock face, are closer to the customer. So when we think about motivation and organizations, we need to think, actually, our operational teams, what's motivating them? Defender and friend, they're two big ones here. Is there enough security, stability? Do they feel safe to give a great experience to our customers? And actually, beyond that, are our senior leadership team really communicating with the operational guys to understand what's going on, what those operational teams are hearing, And in between, we've got our managers sort of, you know, doing the filtering bit of, oh my Lord, got these fantastic strategies, but then I've got people giving me all of this grief from the fact that, you know, we've got operational stuff to get on with and customers are complaining. So, you know, there's a bigger piece here around teams and how we can think about them, their motivation as a team being impacted. Time is marching on. I must move on. So there is how the motivations fit into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we can see as we move through our career, our motivators change. Yeah, they change in order. They change in satisfaction levels, particularly from a, you know, it can be from a day-to-day basis. So how do we then track that motivation? I've mentioned that we're turning the visible, the invisible visible, but how do we track it? So 3 things here. Speech bubbles, talking to people. Amazingly enough, what a great thing to do. And as in business, we all know, we get a feeling that something's not quite right. We get a feeling that things aren't going well. So the key thing to do, talk, have conversations. What language is being used? Are other conversations going on in organizations? How are they impacting what the customers are experiencing? So we need to start with the internal teams, conversation, whether they're formal or informal, what's going on? And then the middle one, we got a clipboard there, our survey. So we can survey our internal teams, can't we? So let's ask them, you know, what's going on? What scale? How motivated are you? Let's ask them. What a great way of doing it. And then, of course, our stars at the end represents our customers, because ultimately that motivation, as I've suggested, has an impact on what our customers are experiencing. So therefore, we need to ask our customers at the same time as we're asking our internal teams how they're feeling. When you get those two, you get that gap, and you can see what that gap analysis is. So teams saying, actually, do you know what? Everything's firing on all cylinders. Customers might be agreeing with them. That'd be fantastic. But actually customers might be still saying, well, ooh, it's not quite going as well as we need it to. Could that be a process problem? Flip side is, you know, teams of motivation is dropping through the floor. Is that having, or how much of an impact is that having on what the customers are experiencing? The only way we truly find out is to keep asking our customers as well. So it's one of the key things that we need to do there. So there's 3 areas. Talk to your teams, survey, ask your teams through a formal process, and your customers. So 3 things to think about. So how could we do that? Strangely enough, Instant Insight is one such tool that you can do that with. It enables us to actually ask those basic questions and track over time. I've got one organization who use Instant Insight, and they ask every week, and they have been doing so since last July, how motivated do you feel this week? So they have got a full track of the teams. And it's a brilliant way of just acknowledging that, hey, things are going well at the moment. We're all on motivating. We're 9 and 10 out of 10. This is fantastic. But actually, it's also another great way of really pinpointing those people who have got low motivation levels at the moment. If you're scoring 6 or less, the system flags it up, enables you to email HR or the manager to say, hey, Richard's not feeling very good at the moment. He's scored a 4 out of 10 on motivation. Why not give him a ring? So that drives the conversation piece I was talking about. So we can do that. We can do it in terms of highly motivated, motivated, demotivated. So you've got more of a worded scale for that. And also, when you think about your motivators, 9 motivators at work, we could ask people based on your top 3. How motivated do you feel, or what do you need this month to boost your motivation? So we need to be really, really focused on this, because we know that this last year has had quite an impact in terms of the sort of mental well-being. So we need to make sure that comes over. Top 3 motivators, we can track what those are. We can track what your 9 motivators, what the order they're in through the motivational maps. Individual reports are available. Team reports, so the coloured squares there, we can see that across this whole team, we can see all of the different motivators, and we can see that their top motivator for the whole team is searcher, so they've got strong purpose. But we know that at the bottom, their bottom motivator is builder. So they're not overly motivated by money as a team. What impact does that have on getting stuff done, of being commercial, because they're in business? So does that have an impact on how they perform? And if it does, what can we do about it? What rewards, recognitions can we put in place to make a difference? So those are the 9 motivators there, you can see. So we can enable people to really think about those. So that's how we can make the invisible visible, is actually to monitor this. And as you can see on here as well, we've got an overall motivation score as well. So people can see overly, overall I'm 92% motivated, or I'm 69% motivated. How could I boost that motivation and ultimately boost the experience my customers have? So I've warbled on about 5 minutes longer than I'd hoped, but hey, there you go. That's sound of my own voice, sorry. So 3 things. Ask questions. In terms of motivation, you need to understand what's going on. Got to ask questions, whether it's informally, formally, through surveys, one-to-ones, whatever it is, coaching. Ask questions. Then we listen to the answers, because there's no point in just saying, oh, brilliant, you're all motivated, that's lovely. Why are they motivated at the moment? What can you keep doing that's keeping people motivated and teams motivated? And then act on that insight. What are we going to do? What difference are we going to make? Those key things to think about as we go forward. Finally, I've spoken about 2 things here today. Motivational maps. For everybody on the call today, if you'd like a free motivational map, send me an email and I'll send you out a 12-minute questionnaire that you fill in, and you can get a free motivational map to see how motivated you are and how it all works. And also from an instant insight point of view, if you want a mechanism, an automated in-the-moment feedback tool that enables you to question your internal teams and your customers around what's going on and identify the gap that could exist and then do something about it, please do go to insight6.com/instant-insight to find out more about that system.